it was a source of survival. Nadia, Olga, all of this was because I was hungry. Yeah, I ate. I left without saying goodbye. So I just kind of disappeared. If she's listening to this, I apologize.
And with all these young women, I mean, often in Russia people live in like multi-generational homes, so you would be going to their parents' house, and their parents would be feeding you borscht and cheese.
What do you do? I have to
Green borscht,
those briefs provided from a bit of solace.
So Eric was finding ways to subsist. He had access to food, a little money from stripping. He even spoke the language well after about a year. But she still didn't have enough money to get out. After some time in Russia, you did get involved with the sort of criminal underbelly, kind of small-time Russian gangsters. So who were these people, and why did they want to hang out with you?
So I called this guy the three hospitals of the country. So two Nigerians, two Nigerian hospitals. So they came at the time I wasn't listening to hospital. I was doing and looking for the Russians.
Those guys had a high-risk scam going on, and they needed help. Basically, how it worked was they pretended to have a method to poach money. They'd take an original dollar, or ruble, and they had chemicals that could copy it onto fresh paper. They had a method for marking up this process, using iodine, but it was all sleight of hand, totally fake.
They didn't have no dollar to see, so this was broke men who had mastered all the years from when I was going to be translated.
And they borrowed the service. So Eric had successfully pulled off his first scam. It had worked, and it wouldn't be his last. But this was a risky operation, and it could turn end up That was the very first time I knew that I was never ever going to leave Russia alive.
And I knew that Russia would become my burial ground.
He was desperate to escape the country, but didn't know how. That's after the news headlines. BBC News, Clement Thomas. Israel's military says Hamas targets have attacked in all parts of the Gaza Strip. Hamas says its fighters fired anti-tank missiles at Israeli armored vehicles. The US says it's optimistic the number of aid trucks entering Gaza will soon increase to around 100 a day. The White House said discussions with Israel were taking place. Tens of thousands of striking clothing factory workers in Bangladesh have blocked roads and smashed up factories. Police fired tear gas to disperse the crowds who gathered in the industrial areas outside Dhaka. The head of the Roman Catholic Church in Spain has apologized for the fatalities of Clarendon and close aides of Britain's former Prime Minister Boris Johnson have given evidence to the inquiry into the COVID pandemic, which nowhere near enough to pay for a ticket and exit visa. He began preparing to get his scam up and running again, working with his Cameroonian friend Alphonse. By this time, they had plenty of criminal connections in Moscow, through the hostel, through the market. And he was introduced to a potential target.
This guy sells drugs, that was his job. He was tired, so he wants to invest in scams. I said, okay, let me just go and do one deal and I vamos. And we went to this businessman's place and we scammed him of $5,000.
They hid out in a Moscow house after the stay, having made serious money. For Eric, this meant a ticket out of Russia. He organized an exit visa through a contact. He also bought a Zimbabwean passport, belonging to a guy who looked nothing like him.
The only one that I could afford was the Zimbabwean passport. When Mr. Oswini Tambani Majola was 64 years old.
And you were?
I was still not even 21. Yes.
Now he just needed to get to the airport. But in the meantime, the drug dealer he'd called was trying to track him down. He couldn't find Eric, but he did find two of his friends.
So they were taken hostage? Yes. They thought the Sino and Bade and the Sino and Bade are the ones who directed these people where I live in Babushkinskaya. So that evening about 7 o'clock, the house telephone rang and I picked it up and they said, Eric Washington. Now nobody knows I'm Eric lives in this house. So what I want to do through the keyhole, they take part.
So they were already there?
Yes. Their cars were parked and then through the window, Eric cool. They came upstairs, kicked the door down, they marked at us, no. They are just kill them like that.
They're just saying, let's just kill them.
Yeah, like they would have. Like no one would have known the weather, and I didn't really care. So I started pretending like I'm getting unconscious. And I'm like spitting foams from my mouth. Okay, let's just take them downstairs, take them in the car, and go out somewhere.
He pretended to go limp, unconscious, as his kidnapper took him to the car. When they opened the door, he suddenly broke away and ran full speed into a local market.
You have market goers who are coming close to you, and you have this boat chasing.
And at this point, you're bloody,
I'm not even seeing myself.
Yeah.
But the Russian onlookers who are coming from
So you're saying I'm not a criminal, these guys are drug addicts.
Yes. So in this corner, they don't know whether to stop.
But you make your escape.
Make my escape.
So you at this point, you go to the airport. That's your destination. From directly the scene of this attack, this is it. You have your ticket, you bought a passport, and you're going directly to the airport. This is the final story you're getting out of it. He's got his passport and ticket. He spends the last of his money on the paperwork and heads to the airline desk.
So I got to Sheremetyevo. The woman takes my passport. And she looks at me. And she calls security, but not to detain me. She said they should take me to the bathroom. And that is when I saw myself in the mirror for the first time.
What did you see?
All the bones on my head, that kind of like bleeding, dry blood, tissue, blood everywhere.
Bumps the size of golf balls. And what did you expect when you
this is death, guys, so I come back to I'm doing my rest of the things, and the woman apologizes. She said there is no way she's going to allow me to go on to that point. And that day will not take me because I was very sick. I should go to the hospital. Yes. And that was the very first time I knew that I was never ever going to leave Russia.
back to square one? No money, no paperwork, dangerous criminals were trying to find him.
I knew that maybe Russia would cut my burial ground, so I went to Cheskaya. And that was my first attempt at suicide. Because I knew it was easy for me to kill myself and to get catch up with me and
The criminals who you were wronged. But at the metro, as he made his attempt, the woman intervened. She was the station security officer.
and she took me, she cleaned me, she fed me. I slept at the station, no one bothered me, no one disturbed me.
You were still free. Back to
But you see, this kind of serendipities have happen. These were the angels.
Yet again, Eric had to start from scratch. So he went back to work doing what he knew best, scamming drug dealers. This time, it worked a bit better. He got the money, got the paperwork, got to the airport. But he still had to get through passport control on an obviously fake passport, because it's a 62-year-old
Yeah, and I was quite tiny at the time, with a massive afro. I was the last person to go on that British Airlines.
What did it feel like when you walked on that airplane?
I knew that at any point someone would look at my passport and they'll come and remove me from that flight, because you just couldn't put the two together. But they made an announcement and the plane started turning around the tarmac, and we rushed forward and we lifted, and I'm looking outside the window and we're actually in the air. Oh my god.
He made it out of Russia after 2 years of trying. His flight was to Zimbabwe, but with a layover in London, and that's when he got off. He made it through immigration and got issued with a tourist visa. Eric headed for the Welsh capital of Cardiff. A guy from his village had lived there. It seemed as good a place as any. And he came clean to the authorities. Had you ever intended to live in the UK? Was that ever part of your plans?
Not in the UK, let alone Wales. This was never. I had to start my life again as a Cameroonian.
Yeah, you had to refine your identity.
Yes, I'm regaining my name. And what I started doing was, voluntary work. And I started meeting people at the refugee council who had worse experience than myself. I started finding my voice.
And when he found his voice, it was poetry that he used to express himself.
I was invited to a place in North Wales called Clarendon by they call it the Academy, and today is Literature Wales. And they were running a seminar on literature and trauma. So many wonderful writers, and they spoke. So as we traveled back from that conference to Cardiff, I had like a very strange experience. And I wrote down my first poem, and that poem became the title of my first anthology, Between a Mountain and a Sea. And there's a stanza that says, on a wet journey to Clarendon, I'm washing away pain and longing. A reborn voice is crying between a mountain and a sea, where voices echoes across horizons and conversations on common things. Wake me from my slumber. And this poem was over. So that was it. That was the moment of realization that I have to stop running. The mountains, the seas, sheep grazing, reminded me so much of home. So that became like an outlet.
And Eric, when you look back at that time in Russia now, how do you think it's changed you? How has it shaped you?
That little thing that my mother did at the airport, where she took my hands into her